Hey guys, so just when we're starting off, there's well, pretty much before we get into the good stuff of the chapter, there's really only one major issue I wanna talk about with this chapter for me, and in some ways even then it's really just a nitpick, but it pretty much is pretty much still a bit of a major enough problem for me to say like, okay, just what the fuck happened here? Which is that when the chapter starts, more or less, we immediately jump into the alliance between Goodwin and the Interstellar Union Army being formed. And the thing with this moment for me is that it's not one of those things where I was expecting a full-on chapter to like just pretty much dedicated to them like hashing out the details and forming the alliance and whatnot. At the same time, it's also kind of one of those things where it's like, wait, did we miss a scene? Did we miss something here? Because I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, one thing I will say is that just the fact that this happened at all, it definitely is a testament to something we've seen before, which is just from Goodwin's abilities as both a leader and a negotiator. But at the same time, it's one of those scenes where it would have been nice in order to see that happen, in like playing out in the background concurrent to the main events of the chapter, because the thing it kind of all has to do with just a weird pacing thing for me, because just the fact of seeing us like from just jump into Goodwin forming the alliance, it just felt overall like we kind of missed like a whole conversation. Again, it's probably just me, but yeah, there's just something off about that scene that made me say, did we miss a line? Did we miss a scene? Something like that. But again, it's in some ways it's a minor nitpick, and in some ways I'm glad we just kind of in some ways I am glad we just kind of rushed through that. But at the same time, it would have been nice in order to have just a bit of a better transition into that, I think. Um, with that said, let's talk about how Shura's robots essentially committed suicide to take Shiki out. Which, first off, uh, 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 I think, like pretty much barring any, like pretty much barring another sort of, like barring another sort of like situation with Drac and Joe, I think we can more or less assume that Shiki's not dead. However, even if he survived, this was, to me, what happened with Shiki in this chapter was basically the turning point for his character. That will pretty much change him for better or worse. Like he's like the thing is, because of well, pretty much because of the setup itself, because of who had done it to begin with. Shiki is not coming out of that explosion as the same person he's been up to this point, because now he's basically seen the other side of the coin when it comes to machines. Even if it's not their fault, he's he's now witnessed just how far machine kind can be warped, how much they can be warped, how when pretty much stripped of their humanity, and just the cruelty they're capable of when that happens, or God forbid they pretty much willingly choose to, in order to abandon their individuality and their morality. Like he's basically seen he's now basically experienced what that's like. And honestly, if we thought that moment from Shiki losing hit, like if we thought that moment of Shiki like from losing it on from Sabir was intense, then watch. Shiki's mind has it's probably been shattered so much from this experience that he's more than likely to lose his sanity from the rage that's going to consume him once he bounces back. Like he's gonna go on a total mad rampage for he's gonna go on a total mad rampage and pretty much want pretty much sure his head on a pike after this. And like there's no way that pretty much doesn't happen now. And if it doesn't, then it's going to be a supreme disappointment. In fact, because of this, I think one possibility is we're probably going to see a return of Overdrive, and the possibility of Shiki tapping into the darkness of Satan, the like the full unrestrained power of the darkness of Satan gravity now for the first time. Because one thing I think that Mashima is trying to establish here with this whole explosion, with Shiki getting caught up in this whole explosion, is the idea that the one thing that Shiki it does need to experience more than anything else is just a feeling of what it's like to kind of give yourself to the darkness of Satan gravity in order for him to develop properly. And in a lot of ways, I'm definitely seeing a lot of the Star Wars influence now with this chapter. Weirdly, like just in the idea in itself, I can see just the path that Mashima is taking Shiki on, just from being caught up in this explosion. Now, let's talk about what happens with the whole Homura situation in this chapter, because Mashima did something really smart that I like, which is that while Rebecca did end up using her powers for first time, one thing I do like is how she immediately after using reverse, she pretty much knew immediately in order to change up the strategy. And the best thing to do in the current situation is just remain always on the move, because as much as possible, because in this situation, from their vantage point, from Rebecca's and Weiss's vantage point, it's pretty much not ideal in order to engage directly, for pretty much fear of getting caught up themselves in the trap of the mirrors. However, Homura is in prime position in which to battle Milani directly. But one thing even more so, oddly enough, I really liked about this part of the chapter is that even before Rebecca uses reverse, we see Pino using her EMP on Homura's ether gear, which is, at first I was like, wait, what happened? But then I realized just how clever of a tactic that was, because the ether gears themselves are still machine in nature, but only on occasion just kind of wielded by humans. So it only makes sense that Pino's power can shut it down. And I'd like to see, and even though that was kind of reversed in the, even though that was kind of like, even though that whole moment was pretty much negated by Rebecca using reverse, I'd still like to see her use it somehow in this fight. Also, it is kind of making me realize even more that the ether gears are in fact a creation of Mother. So like when they said, I think there was something that was said a long time ago about Mother, that she's the creator of everything. So yeah, I think it is more or less like confirmed now that the ether gears are a creation of her. But how they were created, that's still the part that remains a mystery. And yeah, the only other thing that, I guess to say the only other thing that worries me about this chapter is that Shura already seems to be overpowering the Starshines. And don't get me wrong, that is to be expected, but my big concern about it right now is, again, I feel Mashima does need to give them some kind of a moment here, because to me, if they still lose, it would not make any, to me, if they lose, if they still lose, it would not make any sense to me that they're just gonna get defeated like that without having some kind of a way of fighting against Satan gravity, no matter how strong it is. And granted, Hermit made the right call in contacting Shiki, but again, one thing I think we need to see right now is them like fighting back, and I'm hoping that's what we will see in the next couple chapters. But yeah, it's like I'm just hoping that the Starshines aren't just gonna be defeated off screen, or just kind of go out like that. Like I want to see them like pretty much fight against Shura. Again, even if they lose, I still need to see their capabilities, because it just doesn't make sense in order for them to be taken out just like this without putting up some kind of fight against someone who's basically used a power they're familiar with. So, but yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll, and just be sure to hit the bell for notifications, and the subscribe button as well. And just share this around, guys. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.